care of it, and it looks like we planned just about right for the food, if not for the room. So anyway, my name is Jim Sullivan, and I'm the director of the Bennington County Regional Commission. Those of you who know me probably know that almost every time I talk in public it is about energy. So there we go, one more time. And thank you all for coming out on a cold polar vortex night. Maybe it emphasizes the kind of stuff that we're talking about tonight, right? Helping people stay warm. First of all, I'd like to thank Martha Canfield Library for hosting us tonight. They have always been very generous in letting us use their facilities. Then I would like to thank the folks who have made the trip down to talk with us. I'll let them say hello. Just from Paul Markowitz from Efficiency Vermont, and Ian Hitchcock, who's right there. From, you want to be from VNRC or VECAN today?
VNRC coordinates VECAN. We'll get into that. Let's say VNRC.
Okay.
They're the ones on my paycheck.
So thank you so much for coming down and helping us with this event this evening. And a real big thanks to Madison Kramer, who is BCRC's Vista and organized the entire event. Madison will be organizing all of our events. She does a very good job of it. So thanks, Madison. We'll get a little bit of an idea of who's here, and then I'll run through the agenda and have a couple comments on why we're here. So folks that are here representing just towns that are thinking about forming an energy committee, like anybody having active discussions in their towns. So I'm seeing some Shaftesbury's and Rupert's, and we have Dorset, Manchester, other town, Arlington. So what other towns are here?
Danby. Sunderland.
Danby, excellent. Sunderland, of course. North Bennington, excellent. And so we have pretty good representation from around the region and beyond, actually. And I see we have some renewable energy business folks in the community in the room as well. So that's good to see. So great. It's great to have such a cross section. This is really encouraging for me because we've done an awful lot of energy planning work in Bennington County in our regional energy planning and working with municipalities on developing town energy plans, but we've always felt like we needed some municipal energy committees to really start to bring some of the ideas that folks have had to fruition. So that I just want to say, as a way of introduction of why we're here, why local energy committees are so important. We do a lot. Like I said, we've done a lot of energy planning around the big pictures of, the Paris Climate Accord, right? Important agreement, right? In Vermont, who has this very ambitious energy goals, a whole array of energy goals. Kind of the big comprehensive one is 90% of all of our energy by year 2050 to come from renewable sources. And I think those are good. Those are great goals and they're great targets. But by themselves, they don't really mean anything. And it doesn't, come on in. There's a couple of seats scattered about here. So the fact that we say that we're supportive of these ideas, of these ambitious renewable energy goals, or in fact, folks that say that we're not supportive of those goals, when it comes right down to it, doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter that Governor Douglas says that we're 90%, he's behind the 90% renewable goal by 2050. Although that's very nice and it's helpful. So, how many? Wait a minute. How many governors behind am I? Governor Scott. I met Governor or Dean? But when I started, Governor Coonan.
Actually, Douglas endorsed it though.
Maybe that's when it started,
Yeah,
right?
it was.
Okay,
There you
so that's how long I've been doing it. And you know, and President Trump, of course, regardless of what you think of President Trump, I mean, he's not a big fan of kind of the big picture energy planning stuff. But again, whether he is or isn't, it's not in and of itself going to make the difference that we need to make. What's really critical, I mean, those targets, those goals are important because they direct our planning efforts and they direct our efforts. But what's really important is really driving individuals and behavioral change. And you know, whether it's getting people to change their light bulbs or turn their lights off when they're not in use, or hang their clothes out to dry instead of use a dryer, weatherize their homes, change to alternative heating systems. Next time they buy a car or a vehicle, think about, well, maybe an electric vehicle makes sense, or maybe I can find other ways to get around. So there's all these really critical ideas, and they're out there. We talk about them in our plans, but without individuals, volunteers at the local level to communicate those ideas and to help provide information about the resources that are available for people. Like, you know, every time Paul Markowitz comes down here, he brings baskets full of incentive money, right?
Where's my wallet?
Got him in the trunk.
So, I mean,
All right.
well, maybe a little bit of an exaggeration, but there are really resources around the state for individuals to take advantage of to make some of these changes. And changes that may not be really easy, but they're not really hard, and there's people to help. But those local energy committees are the folks that really can help get the message out and help facilitate those transitions that we need at the local level. And you know, we talk about these big picture goals about reductions in emissions and increase in renewable energy generation and use of renewable energy. But when you really translate it to what it means at the level, it really becomes like, wow, we have a lot to do. And if you read our regional energy plan or any of the town energy plans or state energy plans, you start to realize that. We're talking about, you know, in the next 10 years, moving to like 90,000 electric vehicles in the state, weatherizing 90,000 buildings, changing heating systems to renewable fuel-based heating systems in 100,000 buildings. I mean, these are big changes, and those are the real numbers. Those are the things that really have to happen if we want to achieve those goals that we all say that we support. So that's it. That's your job is to make those numbers real. It will be your job. And I think that, you know, the local energy committee really in Vermont, it's probably the best vehicle that we've got to make some of those things happen. And so, you know, we're fortunate to have a bunch of people from the Dorset Energy Committee here who've been very active in our region, and hopefully we'll form a number of other energy committees going forward, and people can actually work together across town lines and regionally and with other energy committees around the state. So just very quickly, an overview of what we'll be covering tonight. I'm going to initially turn it over to Paul and Ian for a presentation on local energy committees and what they can do and how they're formed and their responsibilities and roles and responsibilities in the state. Then we'll also share an example of the kinds of project that town energy committees can work on, so that, you know, the kind of thing, nuts and bolts stuff that you can really get into. And then we'll hear some case studies. So we'll hear from the folks from Dorset here, and we still have Norwich.
Linda Gray will be ready to join us on Skype.
There's a great energy committee in the town of Norwich, and they're going to magically appear in front of us and talk to us briefly. And then at the end of the meeting, we'll just, like, it's crowded in here, everything I know, but we'll try to take a minute to let people who are from the same town maybe kind of get together, share some contact information, so that so you folks can plan on next steps at the town level. And there's a table up here. if you didn't notice it while you were getting food, there's a lot of resource information up here, and you can always get in touch with us. I think the Regional Planning Commission, if there's one thing that we're good at, it's kind of helping connect the dots. So, you know, if you need to get in touch with somebody else that you saw here, or get some information about energy committees or energy planning at the state level, you can always contact us at the Regional Planning Commission. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to whoever of you are going to take the lead. Both of you. Okay.
We'll both do introductions. I'll go through introductions.
There's a chair right here for somebody to sit down.
Sell it to them for $5. You want to?
Sure. So Jim, thank you very much for that introduction, and we're really thrilled to be down here with the help of the Regional Planning Commission. These are the folks who really have their eye on the prize when it comes to what can be done here in the communities to make a difference. So Jim, thank you for that gracious introduction and for working with us to be down here. My name is Ian Hitchcock. I'm an organizer with the Vermont Natural Resources Council, and as part of that role, I help coordinate what's called VECAN, the Vermont Energy and Climate Action Network, which is the network of town energy committees all across the state.
Okay, and my name is Paul Markowitz. I work with Efficiency Vermont. If you need a check afterwards, just talk to me. I brought my checkbook. Now, seriously, we do provide about half the money we get comes back to businesses and homes in the form of incentives and rebates, whether it's for improved efficient lighting, or improving the efficiency of your buildings. And then we provide a lot of technical assistance and resources to help people improve efficiencies. That's really our, and we're basically an efficiency utility, serving the entire state except for Burlington, which has its own utility, and we're paid for through your utility rates. So about a penny out of every kilowatt hour goes to funding efficiency, and just as a matter of context, efficiency costs about half of what it costs to provide power, through new power sources. So when anybody does anything, that brings our power rates down, and when you take advantage of it, you get double benefit because you see those rates down. So tonight we're going to be sharing. Ian's going to lead us off. I'll chime in a little bit. Then I'm going to talk a little bit specifically about one of the great projects that energy committees start with is on municipal energy use. Hey, how can I reduce the cost of our municipality? How much energy we spend? That's a great starter project. If you want to endear yourself to your select board, that's a great way to start. So we're going to talk about that and financing, because that's kind of the tricky part. How do I sell this to the town? So it's going to be a little focus on financing on that.
Good. So let me start with a little bit about VECAN. So VECAN, as I mentioned, is a network of town energy committees working to make progress on energy on the local level. We are an information resource and clearinghouse, so our website, VECAN.net, has a wide variety of case studies. We've got stories from people that were involved in local energy work, and we've got kind of a variety of guides about how a town energy committee can function, form, and operate successfully. We provide networking opportunities for communities, such as the ones you're at tonight. The biggest one is our annual conference, which is the first Saturday in December. I would recommend marking your calendars now. It's a great day where we bring together all of the energy committees from all across the state under the same roof to have workshops together, networking opportunities together, and hear from some real regional and sometimes national leaders about where the Vermont local energy work really fits into a broader local, regional, and global pattern. So we would love to see any and all of you there. We try to make that very affordable, and it is really geared to helping you all connect with everyone else doing this kind of work. We also provide regular technical assistance and education, as well as a monthly newsletter where we'll let you know about ongoing opportunities and events that are very likely to be relevant to you. If you guys have the sign-in sheet going around, you put your information on there, we will make sure you get signed up for our regular emails. So Jim talked a lot about our energy goals already, so I won't dwell on them. But as he said, 90% by 2050 is the state's goal for renewable energy coming from all sources. So that doesn't just include electricity, but also includes heating and transportation. So we're talking about total energy use for the state. The problem is that on business as usual right now, we are not anywhere near on track to meet our total energy goals. This graphic came from this document here, which we've got on the resource table. It's a report put together by a nonprofit called the Energy Action Network, and they do a great job of tracking kind of on the state level where does Vermont use energy and where are areas to focus on? So when we talk a lot about heating and transportation, that's because the vast majority of our emissions in the state of Vermont right now are coming from the heating and transportation sectors. So when we're thinking about how to be effective as far as reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, those are areas to start. And EAN will be putting out an updated version of that report in the next month or so keep your eyes peeled for that, and that would be something that we would email out to everybody who was on that listserv.
Ian, if I could just jump in, if anybody saw the article in the Boston Globe yesterday, did you see that? Vermont's carbon emissions have increased by 2%. And they were pointing it out. Vermont, even in Vermont, you know, the green state. So we have a tough challenge ahead of us.
We do. Nobody said this was easy, but the thing that can really make the difference is having more people like you all really on the ground doing the work. And I think Jim spoke to that really powerfully, that we can have all the goals in the world, but they don't mean anything if we don't have people actually doing the hard work to make them a reality, kind of town by town, vehicle by vehicle, person by person. And that's really where you all come in. So we've got, the wisdom of Paul Markowitz seeping in here. Tonight, an in-depth look at what each of us can do to help conserve electricity on a big screen TV. Just to get at the fact that when it comes to behavior change, when it comes to how we use energy, there's been a lot of built-in assumptions over our society and our culture. We thought of energy as something relatively cheap, something that comes free, and something that we can use a lot of. And when we talk about transforming our energy system away from fossil fuels and toward renewables, we really are talking about, trying to bring that energy much more locally sourced, trying to make sure that we keep the money that we spend on energy here in the state, supporting state businesses and state workers. But it's not necessarily where the broader culture has been, which is part of what makes it a challenge, but also a key opportunity. So you are all here tonight, I hope, with the thought and intention of potentially starting a town energy committee in your communities. As Jim mentioned, these folks are really the boots on the ground who are focusing on how to make energy change happen in their community. So they're helping communities save energy through efficiency and renewable generation. There's right now over 100 energy committees in Vermont, and they can take a variety of forms, from being officially appointed by the select board to being in kind of an ad hoc group of volunteers. So the structure that an energy committee takes in a town kind of depends largely on the local context. And that is really one of the powers of VECAN generally is, we will never tell you that there is a one-size-fits-all solution, that there's kind of one way to do things that works in, in Burlington and Montpelier and Arlington. We know that different places are different. And we also know that the people who are best equipped to understand what works and what doesn't in town are you all, are the people who live there day in and day out. And so what we want to do is help provide kind of resources, guides, case studies, networking, but really ultimately leave you guys in the driver's seat when it comes to what makes sense to move forward on renewable energy and energy efficiency wherever you live. So what are the ways to form a town energy committee? I'll preface this by saying we put together a town energy and climate action guide. And my thinking here is when we break out into various towns in the end, I'll make sure that I get to each group and that every town has a copy of this. This is essentially our Bible for how to run a town energy committee, how to sustain it, and how to be successful. But in brief, some of the first and most important things are developing a mission statement and goals. Kind of why are you here and what is it that you hope to accomplish? Then it's really helpful to create a list of the town's energy opportunities and challenges. So what are the resources that already exist in the town? What are the ways that people can make progress, maybe move to more renewable generation? Maybe there's a landfill that could be capped that might have a potential for solar generation. Maybe there's a gravel field there that might be good for solar. Maybe there's a lot of people who commute long distances to get to work, which might be a challenge and might be focused on something like regional transit. But just thinking about how to get a lay of the land before you go out and actually start trying to make change. And that is where kind of creating an asset map of town energy costs can be effective. And I'll be sure to email out a link to this PowerPoint because all those hyperlinks you have there go to kind of more detailed and in-depth ways of actually going through this process. We can brainstorm a list of possible projects and activities. So to start out, that can be from anything as simple as kind of informational tabling at, say, a local transfer station, where you're meeting with people and telling them about the importance of, turning off lights when they're not in use, or letting them know about opportunities to switch to electric heat pumps, or something more ambitious, like running a solarized or weatherized campaign, where you've got a goal of increasing either the homes weatherized or the amount of solar capacity within the town. And then seeking support from the town commissions and select board, and I'll also expand on that, and you guys are lucky to have the support of the Regional Planning Commission. Because it really is essential, and one of the ways that we often have people start is by saying that you can focus on municipal energy use first as a way of demonstrating savings to get further support for more ambitious projects. And we'll dive in a little bit more about some ways that that's been successful.
Yeah. So just one thing to keep in mind if you're just starting out, as a phrase I use, is called think big, start small. So, oh, let's big wind turbines and this over, no, that's down the road. How about tabling a town meeting day and handing out information and encouraging people to take action in their homes? So what can you accomplish getting started with resources you have, and then that starts building, hey, we just accomplished this, now let's take on something a little bit more sophisticated and go to the next level. So get some successes on your belt, figure out how you work well with each other, bring some people that are going to do things that are going to attract people to participate, right? Tackle it, and then go on to the next project.
And the other thing to say with that is, follow the passions of your group. If you've got someone who's, really passionate about bike infrastructure and walking infrastructure and making it easier for people to get around without using their cars, send them off and let them do that work. When it comes to volunteer groups, there's so many things to be done that you don't have to do all of them. That you can focus on the things that you love and that you really feel strongly are important. And that can be a way of kind of keeping yourself energized and motivated by really working on things that you really, really care about. So talking about municipal energy use as a start, municipalities, they use energy in their buildings, they use energy for streetlights. Water and wastewater treatment plants are a big energy hog for towns. You've got municipal vehicle fleets that need to be powered somehow. And one of the things that we've often found is that municipalities don't often fully know how much they spend on energy. Oftentimes, the heating bill comes through, the town manager signs off on it, and that's as far as it gets. And we have found that with town energy committees calling attention to how towns use energy in their own facilities, that can be a way of having people realize, wow, we've got this really drafty building here that's just leaching air out the window. We could save money if we invested in some weatherization and brought down the electricity bill for the whole town, which then in turn is passed on to everybody who lives in it by reducing the rates of taxes that the town has to charge. So it's a way of starting with something that everybody in the community uses, and then if you are able to identify savings for the town, that's often something that towns really appreciate. I don't know about y'all, but I really like not having to spend any more money. And I think that's something that most towns value as well. So here's one example of where that's taken place. This was the South Hero town office. So the town office was one of these drafty Vermont buildings. The town clerk was wearing her coat inside while the heat was on, just to give you a sense of how drafty and freezing this place was. And an energy audit that was pushed by the Energy Committee there showed a laundry list of needs, of ways that building needed to be patched up and sealed to be comfortable, more efficient, and ultimately less expensive to heat. So the local Energy Committee and the Regional Planning Committee worked together to secure financing. They replaced the furnace, the doors, the light, and then air sealed and insulated the building. It's estimated that they reduced the CO2 being emitted by that leaky building by about 25,000 pounds. They saved about 1,000 gallons of heating oil that they'd used in previous years that they didn't use after this weatherization was complete. And that meant the taxpayers saved around $3,200 annually. That was a huge savings that the town didn't even think of they were spending until the Energy Committee brought to their attention that this was something that they didn't need to do going forward. Paul, want to talk about some streetlights?
Yeah, just briefly. How many people have taken advantage of the LED streetlight program? How many towns? Yeah, it's one of these great programs. If you haven't, you're not gonna believe this. I know you're not gonna believe this, but your lighting improves, your rates go down, and it doesn't cost you anything. Did you get that? Lighting improves, your rates go down because the rates for LED streetlights are lower than the lights they replace. It doesn't cost you anything because between the utility, it's mostly Green Mountain Power down here, isn't that it? Yeah. Green Mountain Power and the incentives that Efficiency Vermont provides, we cover all the costs. So if you haven't, come talk to me. We've had a huge percentage of the towns of Vermont, but now we got a couple of little towns, maybe you haven't done it yet. If you haven't done it, it's like no-brainer, you know. And some towns, the larger towns, have actually been able to reduce and eliminate unnecessary street lighting. I live in Montpelier. I chaired our streetlight committee. We eliminated about 15% of our lights. So that's like 100% savings. So I'm not going to say anymore. Great program. Lighting quality improves. Doesn't cost you anything. Your rates go down. Got that? Okay.
I'll give you the last one. I'll give you the next one too, Paul. So, one other thing that's going on at the moment that Jim can speak a lot more about than I can is energy planning and the Act 174 process. So briefly, Act 174 is a bill the legislature passed to try to give municipalities more control over where renewable energy was sited in their towns. So if towns get a town plan, like the ones that Jim has provided here, approved by the Public Utility Commission, those plans get something called substantial deference before them. So essentially, it means that if somebody wants to put a wind turbine or a solar panel in an area that was already designated for renewable energy in those town energy plans, they're much more likely to get kind of rubber stamped and approved and go through the process. And they really kind of establish the priorities for municipal energy use and investment. And the regional planning commissions have been kind of charging forward and really leading the charge at helping towns fill these out. So from what I understand, Jim, that's kind of been an active process here. Can you talk a little bit more about
I can just very briefly talk about that. Thanks. So yeah, the Bennington County was the first of the regional planning commissions to have their regional energy plan approved by the Public Service Department. So, and we have, I think, 5 or 6 towns now that have completed, if not approved, then draft municipal energy plans developed under Act 174. And the only thing I want to add to what Ian said is I just like to emphasize that, yeah, maybe the carrot that was out there for towns was enhanced standing at the Public Utility Commission Section 248 proceedings. But maybe the more important thing in those plans is some really thoughtful work on the types of strategies that can be implemented in the communities to move toward all those energy objectives, especially the thermal and the transportation related ones. So it's a great process, and if your town hasn't started working on those, you probably will. And they provide a really great basis for an energy committee to start. So, thanks.
Exactly, yeah. So for the towns that haven't done an energy plan, they can be a great way of kind of establishing and codifying priorities for the area. And for those towns that do have plans approved, they can be, Bibles or handbooks for what kind of projects you need to do. Because like with the state's energy goals and energy plans, a plan is only as good as its implementation, right? And so energy committees can be incredibly helpful in making sure that those plans don't just sit on a desk and collect dust somewhere, but actually get put into practice and really thought of as working documents. Another thing that energy committees can be really helpful with that we've alluded to is just general public education, because all of you in this room are here with an interest in energy and climate, but not everyone in our communities feels the same way. So there's a lot of people who we can get out there and talk to who we have found are much more receptive to a conversation from a peer or a neighbor, someone they know, someone they trust, someone who comes from their communities, than maybe someone like Paul or I coming down out of the blue and just talking to them about things that we may not have as good an understanding of their local context and where they're coming from. So you can start those conversations in a few ways. We alluded to some of them, tabling at sports events, at a transfer station, just having some informational materials out about basic energy practices, maybe public transit stations around, kind of whatever it is you feel is the most important thing for people to know about in the town can be a great tabling topic. One thing that we found that works well is to provide kind of free efficiency products rather, to engage people to come. So I know that Efficiency Vermont in the past had provided some free LED light bulbs, super efficient bulbs for people to come in. I don't know if that's still going on. But we can, believe you got magnets for that?
We have refrigerator
There you go.
thermometers, yeah.
Yeah. So,
You want, I want to add something here.
please.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing about, first of all, town meeting's coming up. I don't know if you can pull it together, but all you do is you ask the town clerk, where can I set up a table? And that's it, there's some rules around that. But it's like, what a great opportunity to engage people. And have like a 4-question questionnaire. What do you think are the biggest energy problems in your home? How can we help you? What do you need? Whatever it is. Ask a couple questions as a way to engage people. Fill out this survey and we'll give you a free LED. Go to your local hardware store. Hey, can you donate X amount, whatever, and we'll promote your hardware store. Whatever, something free to engage them. Around Button Up, we provided free weather stripping for this. There's a couple of towns down here, but we don't really, I can't promise you that we have efficient products to give away. We do have refrigerator thermometers, little things. So if you want those, see me afterwards, glad to do it. But great opportunity, town meeting coming up. What a great starter, easy project. Get a couple people together, sit out there during town meeting day, just as an example. As a way to engage, get the pulse of people, and talk to people, hey, we're starting energy, and would you like to join? What a great opportunity. So.
And then in addition to speaking with people in your local community, energy committees can play a key role in helping inform the statewide policy discussions and debates around these issues. So one of the, whenever energy committees come to testify before committees, it's always a really powerful experience for lawmakers because you all are the people who are dedicating some portion of your time and your energy and your effort and your passion to addressing these problems. And lawmakers really, really respect that and really appreciate that. And you have a great opportunity to kind of use the energy committee work you do as a way of informing the way that these discussions are had in Montpelier. We can speak more about opportunities to engage. One of them is to write a letter to the editor in your local newspaper, and I'm always more than happy to help people with the process of kind of writing and drafting a letter or distributing it to the local paper. You can tune in to the Vermont Natural Resources Council, which I work for, does a weekly climate dispatch, we call it, every Friday during the legislative session at noon, where we will kind of give an overview of what happened or didn't happen in the State House that week on climate and clean energy. And we'll have kind of an advocate along with usually a lawmaker or someone who can just give people kind of an inside look at what's going on under the Golden Dome. And we'll always end that with kind of a call to action or a way to let folks know how you can be involved in the broader policy discussions.
Take this one. I also wanted to say, so if you want to do something around town meeting or wherever, that Efficiency Vermont, we have those refrigerator thermometers right now. We also have a whole range of educational materials. Some of them are up here. This button-up checklist, save energy in your home. So talk to me afterwards, give me your name. We'll send you a little care package, of some materials that you can hand out at town meeting, along with the refrigerator thermometers. That's good. So just as an example, as a way to engage people, we had 37 towns this year that participated in Button Up. Where's Bill Christensen? We had Shaftesbury, yay Shaftesbury, or North Bennington, somewhere over there. But basically, this is helping people reduce their heating costs, right? And the message here was two things. One is, do what you can on your own. Well, Vermonters are Yankee thrift, do what we can, right? We're, how-to people. Do what you can on your own. And whatever you can't do, like I'm going to put spray foam insulation in my basement, hire a professional to do that. And so this was a simple checklist. We actually had a program about half of our towns participated in where we had free contractor walkthroughs. Rather than contractor charging you $300 to do an energy audit, they would basically do a free walkthrough. In exchange, the individual would go online, fill out some information about their home, about their energy use, and that was kind of enough of a nexus for the contractor to say, well, there's a warm lead. They've taken the time, they filled this out, and they'll do a 1 hour walkthrough. It's not an energy audit, they'll 1 hour walkthrough and give you a quote and basically an estimate of what the work is and what the cost would be. We hope to run that again in the fall. Button Up is a fall campaign, just as an example. But if you look, Efficiency Vermont's been around for 18 years. Our big focus has been on electrical. So people, I mean, I think we have the highest penetration of LED light bulbs, of any state, because we made them cheap early, and we used that, where they're $8 elsewhere, they're $1 in Vermont, right? We wrote down those costs to make it more affordable to people. The big opportunities is on home heating, cooling, insulation, air sealing. Huge, huge opportunities in terms of, if you look at the goals of the state, we're way behind in doing that. So a thermal efficiency campaign, think about that in the fall. Button Up is coming. Okay, next fall.
And one of the things we're most excited about this year was this was the first year that the Button Up campaign incorporated that energy contractor walkthrough and the weatherization piece. And that was based on a model that was provided by another nonprofit, Vital Communities, in the Upper Valley. That is a place where town energy committees have kind of year after year done weatherized campaigns, encouraging people to kind of button up their homes and make sure that they're more energy efficient and cheaper to heat. And they've seen tremendous success with people kind of doing that. But that was only in the Upper Valley. And so this year, in partnership with them and others, we all decided that it was really time to take that program statewide. So next year, when the fall comes around and we're soliciting for Button Up again, keep your eyes and ears peeled for that, because Efficiency Vermont can help connect you.
Right, I think there's going to be like 10 energy committees in Bennington next year. That's what I heard. And all of them are going to participate in Button Up.
Something like that.
That's what I heard.
I think those numbers are going up. And so that can be a really, Button Up is one of those opportunities where there's a lot of kind of external support for a big project, where you don't have to be doing things on your own, but you've got a lot of experience and a lot of other people doing it with you. So that can be a really exciting campaign that can really make a huge difference in people's lives if they're not, A, cold, or B, spending as much money on their heating and cooling bills. Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a question. So with the Button Up, can you do the walkthrough to access Efficiency Vermont's incentives? How does that work? Because you still need to do the test out, correct?
Yeah, so the walkthrough is just to entice people.
Okay.
Give them a quote. Here's a scope. What we're doing is, if you look at obstacles, why don't people move ahead? I don't want to spend $300 or $100 or whatever it is to have somebody come in and do an energy audit on my home. So this gets the contractor in there free. You're walking around, you're losing energy here, you're losing energy here, losing energy here. You can save this much is what it's going to cost. So in terms of plugging in, the person moves ahead, the contractor goes ahead and does the walkthrough. They have to do the test in, which is a blower door test where they look at air leakage in the house. So they do the test in, they have to do all the health and safety stuff. Their work is done. And after that, they do the test out to measure the difference. So they follow the protocol. You just don't have to go through the whole energy audit process up front. It's more like I think it was like, you call a roofer in, right? How much does the quote cost? This is the scope, that kind of thing. So, but a little more detail in terms of what the activities will be.
Yeah, go ahead.
Paul, quick question. You were talking, what you just described is more residential, generally in nature. Does Efficiency Vermont do the same envelope testing on commercial structures?
They do. You can do blower doors tests. No, remember, these tests are done by private contractors. It's not us. Efficiency Vermont manages this network of private contractors who do this insulation air sealing work. We also have relationships with a whole range of contractors, lighting, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, all across the state, all across the board, who do that work and work in partnership with us. In terms of commercial buildings, if the person's looking at improving the thermal envelope, air leakage and insulation, that's also available, usually by private contractors. Efficiency Vermont, I should say, also offers free business walkthroughs. It's not necessarily, we won't necessarily do a blower door test, but could if the conditions warrant. So if you're a business, and you'd like to have somebody walk through your business to do a walkthrough in terms of identifying efficiency opportunities, see me afterwards. Okay.
Go ahead.
Just a question, how are we doing down in southern Vermont, Bennington County in particular, as far as having enough contractors to be able to, to do the work and support energy committees and stuff?
Thin?
BPI certified.
Thin? I don't know, Jim. My understanding is thin.
Well, we're a little thin when it comes to registered contractors. If you go to one of the Efficiency Vermont pages and look up the Energy Star certified, we're a little thin on that. We certainly have a lot of contractors who are, very good and qualified to do the work, but they're not focusing or specializing on that. And I think as a result, maybe they're not, marketing that. So I think there's a real benefit to kind of like build a groundswell of interest and get those contractors interested in getting certified and putting that out there in their business
You
materials.
do have NeighborWorks, right?
I was just about to say, yeah.
You want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah.
So I'm Dustin, I'm from Neighborhood Southwestern, Vermont, and we provide energy audits for anyone who's looking to improve the efficiency of their home as well. We do have a person that does Bennington, Wyndham, and Windsor County, and we have other ones that do Addison and Rutland, and then 3 in the Northeast Kingdom. So if you're looking for energy audits, ours are like 3 hours and they're comprehensive. You can always give us a call. If you sign up today, it's like 100. If you sign up next week, it'd be 150.
NeighborWorks is a fantastic resource that you guys have access to. Yeah, go ahead.
I had a question for Paul.
Yeah.
I was just interested in if Efficiency at Vermont offers people, particularly who don't have the money to do an energy audit, some sort of incentive.
What do you mean, some sort of?
Well,
We talk about like
Oh, so we have some incentives right now for doing yourself. It's kind of
Right.
limited,
Yep.
up to $100 where you can get reimbursed for the materials,
Mhm.
whether stripping, insulation, et cetera. Not a huge amount. You know, to qualify, because for home performance, if you get your home weatherized, insulated through the contractor, you're eligible for up to $2,000 of incentives, but you have to go through what I described before, where you get your home tested, they do health and safety testing out. So, does that cover it, or were you looking for something?
yeah, no, I was just trying to figure out how, you
Yeah.
know, the most people possible can afford to do an audit.
there is Brock, so if you're under 80
Yes.
AMI, you can go through Brock, which is
Yeah.
Bennington and Rutland County. They
Yeah, so-
do free audits and free weatherization,
Right.
but it's a long waiting list.
I think, additionally, there's been a growing amount of financing opportunities that are reasonable at extremely low rates. Like VSCCU, has a great program. So they're, often affordability is a big issue. But, the ability to finance it and often end up cash flow positive after you pay for the loan, but your energy savings are more.
Yeah,
So-
but Jim's referring to the Heat Saver Loan Program. Depending on your income, it says, I think it's 1% now, but I think it's going down to 0%, depending on your income and the term, how long you want to take the loan. So this is great, and then you get to positive cash flow where the savings cover the loan repayments, or get close to that, which is a goal. So there's some information up here, grab one of these.
And just to speak a little bit more about the low-income weatherization programs that we referred to earlier, the state does offer and run those programs. As mentioned, they do have a pretty big waiting list, and partially because of that, that's why one of our big policy pushes this year, kind of from the advocacy community and low-income advocates and others, is to try to increase the funds to that weatherization program, both for workforce development, to try to get more people who are actually trained and certified to do that work, and also to get more resources to the people who qualify for them, but right now are on those year-long waiting lists. That is one of our biggest priorities when it comes to public advocacy. That's one of the things that we think public dollars can and should support. And one of the areas where we could use help from local people, demonstrating that there is a tremendous need for that low-income weatherization service to make it affordable for the people that could stand to benefit from it the most. Because we've got the second oldest housing stock in the country. We've got a lot of really leaky buildings. And I'm not exactly breaking in the dough, bucket of subsidy checks aside. And I've lived in some of those buildings, as a renter, where you just got, you're cold and you're freezing and you're paying an arm and a leg to be cold and freeze. And that's not something that anybody in our state should have to experience in a place where we've got these cold winters. So that's something that we're thinking about. And in addition, as was mentioned, the Heat Saver loan is probably one of the best options around to try to finance some of those projects at a low cost. Paul, you want to take energy codes?
New construction energy codes. So how many people know that Vermont has an energy code for new construction? How many people know that there's no enforcement?
You do now.
Oh, well. But there actually is an energy code. Commercial, residential, you have to build your new construction or gut rehab, you have to build your buildings to a certain standard, right? Towns can actually adopt what's called a stretch code, which is even above and beyond that. If you're really crazy, they're starting to talk about net zero standards. I don't know, that's big, yeah. But there are a bunch of things that towns can do, and I'm hoping Dorset, when they come up, will talk about it. So there's something called a certificate of occupancy, which some towns have before you can occupy a building, you know, health, safety, electrical, all that. You put energy right in there. Let me see your code certificate signed by the builder that shows that you've met the standards, right? And then that code certificate goes on file with the land records, and was there as a permanent record. So there is stuff that you can do. I'm just mentioning one, but if you want to make, that's a really, you know, just think about the opportunity cost, what's lost when a home is built and it's not energy efficient, a new home. A lifetime of energy use that is wasted because somebody didn't want to spend the extra $3,000 or $4,000 to make it energy efficient, right? Or $5,000 or whatever it is, right? So great opportunity.
Let's go
Yeah.
for 25 or 100.
What's that?
Quickly, and I know
Costs
this isn't,
really a lot of money to us.
Well, to build to code.
No,
I'm
not
talking.
to build, no, but
Build
to
to
build a
code.
really.
No, I'm talking building to code, just to code. If you want to go beyond that, that's another thing. Yeah, go ahead.
so in your professional educated opinion,
Whoa. Oof, I gotta leave now.
Ellie, what do you think, because I'm an energy professional as well, and this is something that bothers me. What do you think the state would have to do to be able to get to a point where they are enforcing energy code?
It's such a long.
I know, we don't have that much time,
No.
in as condensed a version as you can make it.
Well, the rub is that the state said, energy code, towns, you're responsible. You know, so it's the old unfunded mandate. You ever hear that one, guys? Right? So unfunded mandate, and you know, the towns even resist the fact that they are responsible for collecting the code certificate. In fact, we did a bunch of education years ago, went around all the regions, and like 90% of the towns had no idea that they were supposed to be collecting that energy code certificate. I mean, it's like, wasn't even, so then it was on the radar, we've made some inroads on it. So there's a basic resistance without the money. You start to give the towns money, we'd like you to help make sure you get that code certificate. I think that's a big one, but I don't see that coming down the pike, but why not? You know, people don't start saying it, then it doesn't happen. Yeah.
Are there not mortgage opportunities when you have had a certain amount of energy efficiency work done on your home, that you reduce the amount of mortgage that you have to pay for the work that you had done?
I would say in theory that's a great concept. And then talk to the banks. They're not really there yet. The financing institutions aren't really there yet. I think there's huge opportunities to influence, particularly on the buyer side, at point of sale, not just new construction, but at point of sale. Hey, because that's when most people are most likely to make major improvements on their home within like 2 years of buying it. So hey, this, by the way, get an energy on your home, look at the opportunities, get an extra, you know, loan on top of your mortgage or whatever it is, get this work done before you move in, et cetera, major construction. But that's a tough one. There's a whole conversation going on, and the challenges, you got the lenders, you got the assessors, you got the appraisers. I mean, it's, yeah.
That said, one avenue where an energy committee could potentially play a role here would be, you know, doing outreach to local realtors, for instance, and encouraging them, hey, you know, when you're giving out information about these new houses in the area, you know, would you consider including information on the energy efficiency of the home?
Right.
We found like that kind of basic educational outreach, like with so many things. I think, you know, one of the themes we're trying to get across tonight is that, you know, energy committees can really shine attention to the importance and savings of focusing on these issues among kind of businesses and groups and organizations that don't ordinarily think of them as a thing to think of at all. So that's an avenue where, you know, an energy committee could go around to realtors and say, you know, please include, you know, consider energy information, and that way when new buyers are going to purchase the home, they can get a sense of what its energy use is when they're deciding either to purchase the home or to make investments to try to increase its energy efficiency. Transportation, another key area where energy committees can be involved. EV charging stations are something that we would encourage committees to consider. They don't work everywhere, but where they do, they can be really, really impactful. We've got, you hear about kind of the chicken and egg problem with electric vehicle adoption, which is, you know, do you prove that enough people drive EVs to build the infrastructure, or do you have to build enough infrastructure so that people feel like they can buy EVs? And one of the ways that energy committees have and can help with that problem is by kind of encouraging EV charging stations to be put in place so that people feel like they've got the infrastructure to make it successful and financial. And we bring those up now in part because there are some grant programs being put together by the Department of Transportation here in Vermont for EV charging station infrastructure. So they're not applied for by communities themselves. It's towns, so an energy committee wouldn't be able to apply for this, but they'd be able to encourage their municipality to do so. The first grant period is closed, but there's going to be another grant period opening up. We expect sometime in the next year, and that's the sort of thing we would send out information to all of you on. But just kind of, that's an opportunity to put some money there that wasn't necessarily there before. Are you guys all familiar with the VW emissions cheating scandal? Yeah, we love cheating on emissions in this room. One of the good things that came out of that terrible scandal was that there were some consumer protection settlements, both on the federal and state level, that said VW has to give some money back to the people who were defrauded by them lying about the cleanliness of the emissions from those vehicles. And so that's where that money is coming from. That's kind of a one-time windfall. Another thing kind of the advocates are pushing for is to make sure that that money actually goes to EV infrastructure. But just something to think about as an opportunity going
And
forward.
I just have to jump in on the EV infrastructure thing because it's one of my favorite topics. People talk a lot about EV infrastructure and charging stations, and that's important, and it's a great opportunity, and it's a good municipal energy committee project. At the same time, it's remarkably unimportant for an EV owner. Speaking as a family of 2 electric vehicles, we don't need them. Guess where you can fill up your car? You fill up your car at home, and it's really easy, and it's a lot cheaper than filling up at a gas station. So this is good, but it sometimes bothers me that all the charging station thing is paraded out there, and people say, "Oh, there's not a charging station everywhere, so I can't have an electric car." You absolutely can have an electric car.
You live in one. You live at a charging station.
Wouldn't that encourage tourism? Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the real benefits of the charging stations absolutely is for tourism, because that's really important. You know, I don't think 30, 40 years from now we're going to see all these people from Connecticut driving their diesel-powered SUVs up here, right? They're gonna either get up here on a train, or, well, who knows what the transportation system's going to be like. But if they're using electric vehicles, they're going to need charging stations. So that is important, and especially, you know, we have folks up in Quebec are buying electric vehicles at a lot faster rate than we are, and so to accommodate that market, it's certainly beneficial to have. So I don't want to poo-poo it. I just want to say I don't want the private individuals to be disincentivized from getting into EVs because of charging stations.
Go ahead.
Is there any move to hydrogen next to EV power stations? Because you use electric to create the hydrogen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So in California, they already have, Toyota already makes hydrogen vehicles, and it's all electric powered.
Yeah.
So is there any movement on that, or any idea of time range when that's going to start showing up, or if we might start moving towards that?
None that I'm aware of, but I will say that there's a group out called Drive Electric Vermont that really focuses a lot on kind of EV charging station and emerging technologies. I can get you in touch with the guy who runs it, Dave Roberts. He might be able to give you a better answer than I. I don't know off the top of my head. Yeah.
Ian, is there any way that the average interested person could find out what the usage rate is on charging stations? I mean, I know there's a lot of charging stations in various locations in Bennington County, not a lot, but there are some in Bennington County. The curiosity for me is, are they being used, or are they just rusting away?
Yeah, that's a good question. I imagine the utilities themselves would have that information. Again, I would punch you toward Drive Electric Vermont to start, because offhand I don't know what that is.
We need to keep it going.
There were 6 at the double hex in Manchester, and now they're down to 2. I don't know why they took the 4 away. They weren't being used.
They're down to 2?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, the majority use of EV stations are actually on the mountains for people who can afford Teslas and things of that sort. You see them at that Stratton, Ridge, and places like that. They're using them all the time. But Zoe's where it's an in-between stop, you don't see it as much. So,
Trying to move forward here so you guys can hear from folks other than me.
yeah.
One of the other avenues that energy committees can help work on is public transportation. So bike lanes, pedestrian lanes, but also increasing access to transit other than cars. So in Marshfield, the Plainsfield, Marshfield, and East Montpelier committees collaborated. They worked with Green Mountain Transit and said that we really feel like there's a need and an interest for a commuter line between Montpelier and St. Johnsbury. And thanks to their kind of engaging these transit people and demonstrating the need and interest in the project, there's now a transit line from Montpelier to St. Johnsbury that would not exist without the energy committees advocating for and pushing for it. So where the opportunities are appropriate.
And they kick in a certain amount, it's like 10% of the total cost. They have a budget line every year, like 7,000 or something like that. They kick in and the state picks up the rest of it. So it's a great kind of cost sharing.
Community solar, briefly, is another avenue where there may be some opportunities to engage. These tend to be kind of more complex projects, so I wouldn't start an energy committee with community solar right out of the gate, but there have been communities that were really successful in getting solar adopted on municipal buildings, municipal lands, schools, and just increasing the renewable energy that's generated by the town that they have. And if they don't install generation directly, one of the things they can also do is work on power purchase agreements through net metering, where you are essentially buying shares in renewable energy, in solar energy that's generated elsewhere, but used to offset the town's costs. The Waterbury Energy Committee helped quadruple the amount of residential solar in the town of Waterbury in less than 2 years through their community campaign. And we've got both sample power purchase agreements and case studies and kind of guides from Waterbury themselves on how they accomplished that. So one other resource to mention is the Community Energy Dashboard run by the same group that puts together this report, the Energy Action Network. And EAN's Community Energy Dashboard kind of can help you track progress in energy use in your town. I could do a whole presentation on it and would be very happy to come down and talk about it in more depth.
But you can go to their website right now and pull up your town and see where your town is in terms of energy use. And Yeah, and we have some Go Vermont materials up here. So.
So we are here and are thrilled to see all of you in this room and want to be resources to you. So please do reach out to Paul, to myself, to my supervisor, Johanna Miller, whoever it may be, to help you on these projects. That is what we are here to do, and we would absolutely be thrilled to do it. So.
And we will be emailing you. Put your name down, your email. We'll email you this so you have all the links.
Great.
Oh, by the way, on that, is there anyone who has not signed the mailing list is back here?
I would circulate that back around. So how's everybody doing? We have like another 10-minute kind of little focus thing on financing efficiency in municipal buildings. You guys ready? You want to stand up? You good? No? Keep going? Go ahead.
You guys are...
What?
I had one last question.
Please.
Does energy committees have like bank accounts they can put savings in to put towards further projects and things like that?
It depends on the committee, but there are a couple who have developed what are called revolving loan funds, where any kind of savings that come from energy efficiency that comes as a result of the committee's work are put into a fund that the committee and the town can access. That's one means of financing. There have been some committees that have just gotten kind of stipends from their select board of town grants and town monies as recognition of the service they provide to the town and the community. So it does vary, and we can go in depth about it.
Some towns have formed nonprofits. Like
right.
Waterbury has a nonprofit and they have their own bank account. Some towns get a budgetary allowance, X amount of dollars to spend to raise awareness, whatever, out of the municipal budget that's incorporated. But it really depends, like we said before. Sometimes they're an official advisory body of the municipality. They're appointed by, like I'm on the Montpelier Energy Committee, or appointed by the select board, right? And before we do anything, we go to them and say, here's what we're thinking of doing, or planning on doing, and they sign off on it. Some energy committees, like Dorset, is a separate, their own freestanding, have a little bit more freedom, but work closely with the select board, so.
But if you get along well with your town manager, he likes your idea of a bike rack, they may pay for it.
There you have it.
He's sort of that way.
Yeah, I think just from our perspective, we're both Dorset Energy Committee. I mean, expecting to have funding from the town is probably not a good way to start. Frankly, you can get support with good ideas. The town may fund it and all. But one of the biggest selling when the Dorset Energy Committee got going, one of the biggest selling points was it wasn't going to cost the town anything.
Right.
So we were going to do things that would be helpful to the town. So it's a great selling point. Then you prove yourself some, then maybe funding can come.
And in a town like Montpelier, we document how much we saved the towns. Like when we did the street lighting, we saved the town $20,000. We did the wastewater. Of course, most towns don't have a wastewater treatment plant. So, and now we're going to the town and saying, hey, fund a part-time energy coordinator. And and it's worthwhile, basically, look at how much we saved the town alone. So you don't start with, hey, can we have some money? You demonstrate your value, and then you go back and maybe $500, depending on the size of your town, to cover food at, information events or whatever.
We're still at cheap days. We've saved them, many thousands, tens of thousands. So.
Did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I do. So many farmers in Vermont drive tractors. How are they going to fit into this 90% by 2050?
Go biodiesel.
Yeah.
A lot of them do biodiesel. Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
They're growing.
Actually, we have a great example of that at State Line Farm in Shaftesbury, where they produce biodiesel. And I think there's really a tremendous opportunity for the agricultural sector to in fact, dedicate some of their crop production to oilseed to produce fuels for their own vehicles. So that's a great observation, because local agriculture is also a huge part of our energy puzzle. So
Jim, is State Line producing their own fuel?
Yeah, and I haven't been down there in a few years, but yes, they were absolutely producing their own fuel. Yeah.
I think they cut back on it.
They may have cut back, but he's a remarkable resource. He knows the stuff inside out. So yeah.
Yeah.
Can energy committees enroll in the standard offer program, or is that?
It would have to be the municipality, on behalf of the municipality.
Okay.
Yeah, like you're talking about being able to take advantage of
Yeah.
material of energy produced off-site. you know, you have to be a legal entity to be able to do that. That has some type of demand on the system, right? You know, here's my electric bill, and here's how much I use, and you're offsetting part of that use, and then getting the economic rewards associated with that.
Paul, I just want to add one thing to your presentation before you do this, and I'll be very, very brief. But I know that there's some folks here from, you know, that are particularly interested in economic development and opportunities for economic development. And one of the really profound findings in our energy plan is the amount of money that is spent in our communities on energy, and in fact is exported out of our communities and out of the state to the tune in Bennington County alone of well over $100 million a year. So you know, if you can as a local energy committee have an effect on saving the amount of money that's spent on energy, that's money that goes right back in the pockets of local residents that can be spent in the local community. And that, talk about low-hanging fruit for economic development. You know, if you can do that and just, you're generating really millions of dollars locally.
Let alone if you're hiring weatherization contractors.
Well, yeah.
Right?
And that's the other side of the coin too. To achieve these savings, you also have the opportunity for creating local jobs in the energy sector. So, you know, if you're thinking about local economic development opportunities, you know, a good place to start thinking is energy.
And just to jump on that, I mean, 78 cents from every dollar spent on fossil fuels in Vermont, so whether it's gas, whether it's heating oil or propane, that leaves the state. And that's just a profound amount of money, where if we were to do those things more locally with local generation, as mentioned, we'd be able to keep that money in state. To say nothing about the fact that when it comes to home heating, fossil fuel prices are incredibly volatile. You never know what price you're going to get year in, year out. Whereas if you're going with something like a cold climate heat pump, you've got much more stable rates.
So I'm going to be a little quick here because I really want to make sure we endorse the people up here. I think they're going to be a lot more interesting than me. And that we hear from Linda Gray from Norwich. So we're going to share this with you. I'm just going to do the first part of this presentation. Looking at the time, we're a little bit behind. You know, we talked about a starter project, helping your local government reduce its energy costs in its buildings, right? And first, how do I start that, right? Well, it's like, first we talked before, how much are you spending? A lot of towns don't know what their total energy bill is in the town. Electrical, you know, the heating bill, from these different, from the library, from the fire station, from the garage. Oh, and then we got our transportation. You don't have, what's your municipal energy bill? And then, look what energy prices were 15 years ago. You know, when it was $1 a gallon, you can see what that looked like, right? And we know where it's going in the future. So first step is put together that energy bill, right? The other is, well, how do I know which building to start in, right? So what you can do, a really simple gauge, is do what they call BTUs per square foot. What the hell is that? Energy intensity. How much energy do I use per square foot in my building? So you take the square foot of the living space. You can do this on your own house, by the way, right? And divide it by the total energy use. There's a calculation on our website. You can do that and start to look. You know, they say decent buildings around 40,000 BTUs per square foot per year. Don't worry about that number. But if you start to see 80, whoa, 100. I've been in homes that had 120. You know, it's crazy, right? 3 times what. So let's start with this building. And then go to the select board and say, looks like we're losing some energy here. Do you have $300 or $500 where we can do a walkthrough? Or maybe you have some of your town has some knowledge and they can do a walkthrough, you know, like the Jim Hands of the world and the others who have some energy knowledge and do a walkthrough of the building and come up with some preliminary recommendations. I'm just giving you some starter. But the big one is, how are we going to pay for this, right? And what I want, 4 concepts I want to share with you. I'm going to save the stuff on kind of, these are financing concepts, the stuff on a revolving loan fund, municipal leasing, I'm going to save that, but I just want to share this with you. I already talked about who we are, and that's what we're going to cover. I'm going to cover those first 3 there. All right, here we go. A couple principles. All right? So the difference between financing and funding. You know, funding is, here's a check from Efficiency Vermont, here's a grant, right, et cetera. Financing is you're borrowing money to make those investments, right? So you can, there's a lot of ways you can fund municipal improvements. You know, they can take out a loan, they can put it in the annual budget, whatever. But the reason I mention this is because we want to get to this idea, if you have to borrow money, that you look at efficiency as an investment and not an expense. Okay? It's not an expense. Why is it not an expense? Why is it an investment? You get your money back. It's an investment, right? It's just like, going to your, get your mutuals. You're getting some type of return on that, right? You actually get a return on your investment, right? So first thing you're trying to sell this to your select board, it's like, this isn't an expense. We're making an investment in our building. And not just because we're getting a return, but the building's going to improve, occupants are going to be more comfortable, all those other nice little benefits. We're going to reduce climate impacts, we don't even have to go there, right? So, investment versus an expense. It's not an expense. It's an investment in the building, it's an investment in the town. Another concept is, what the hell happened there? All right, who put in that funny stuff in there? No, that's good. Okay. So, there's this concept in the energy world called payback. And I have no idea how it came to be, but it's like, oh, that building has a 10-year payback on energy improvements. What does that mean? Well, if it costs me $1,000 and I'm saving $100 a year, that's a 10-year payback, right? Now, just think of your body. You're going to get your money back in 10 years. What does that make you feel like? Oh, shit, 10 years? Oh, my God. Sorry, did I say shit? 10 years? Oh, my God, I don't want it. That's a terrible way to look at investment. But if I said to you, hey, how would you like a 10% return on investment? Huh? Ooh, that sounds good. What am I getting on my savings account? Zilch. What am I getting on my T-note? 1%? I don't know, right? What can I get on my building? 10% return on investment, 20%, depending on how bad it is, right? So I would say throw out the concept of payback. Somebody says payback, we don't talk about that. We talk about return on investment. Okay? You should think about it for your own houses. I'm going to talk to municipal. But these are like ways to sell it to folks who are skeptical about putting money in municipal buildings. What's the return on investment? And you can get that, when you get your audit report or whatever. Here's how much it costs, here's how much the savings are, etc. One more concept, and then I'm going to bring some other folks on there. Somebody put all that stuff. Who did that? It must have been the guy who put this together. Okay. So this concept of positive cash flow. Another argument you're going to hear, people put up, think about your own. It's like, I can't, or people who are, let's say, paycheck to paycheck, I can't afford to put another dollar. I can't afford another $1 a month. I'm already maxed out. So you're asking me to take out a loan, make improvements on my building, et cetera. Well, this concept of positive cash flow, so that depending on the interest rates and what the return is on investment, you can often start, depending on how bad your house is or your building, you can often start to get to positive cash flow. In other words, where the savings from the reduced energy costs cover your loan repayments. Particularly if we have a business energy loan that municipalities can apply for, et cetera, right? So the idea is like, okay, if it's 5 years or 7 years, you're at positive cash flow, or it's even, right? I'm not making, I'm not losing, but it's not costing me anything more. And after that, it's 100% savings, right? So this concept of aligning the period of payment with the savings, right? So you get something like this. I want to show you that, right? So here's what your savings are. There must be some more stuff. Okay. Let's go back and look at this thing next time. All right. Right. So, if you look at these are loan payments, energy savings, this is a little bit exaggerated here, right? But you can see it's like, oh my God, it's going to cost me this much more per year, right? But if you do something like that with all these other things on there, right? Then you start to look at matching where this is exaggerated, but you can see where the savings are exceeding the loan repayments. So it's a positive cash flow situation. Now, I'm not saying everybody can do that. Sometimes with interest rates low enough, the savings big enough, the terms long enough, you can get pretty close, depending on your building. So I just want to share that. We'll share this with you, but I really want to get people that are really interesting up here. So, Ian, did you want to have Linda, is she on board, or do you want to get the Dorset people here?
She is on board and ready to go. I think since she's remote, if you guys are around, we'll start with Linda Gray from Norwich, and then we'll bring in folks from Dorset. Yep. So give me just a moment to get that set up.
Let me get this done.
Yeah, here, I got it, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. I wanted to kind of introduce myself. myself, I'm Madison. I have emailed a lot of you and talked to a lot of you, but I am working with the BCRC as an AmeriCorps Vista, and if after this meeting you guys decide you want to take action, you want to do stuff at your town level, call me up because I have free time, and you know, energy committees are all volunteer, so all hands on deck. I can see how I can help. You know, you tell me what you need.
I think in that context, unless somebody objects and let us know, I just took a look at those sign-in sheets, and it looks like just about everybody signed in and they put their town down. So as far as like getting together and connect, I encourage when we're done, people can connect informally here tonight. I was a little crowded and chaotic for that. But if you don't mind, I think Madison can take that sign-in information and maybe just create small group emails by town and send it out so that everybody in the town has the email address of everybody else in the town.
Should we go outside the towns a little bit? I mean, I'd like to meet people from, I've never met anyone from Bennington.
One thing, and I'll do the last agenda item right now then, while I sign up. So what we'll do is, this won't be the last of our meetings like this, so we'll have another regional forum with town energy folks, and we'll let everybody know, and it'll be the opportunity for people to reconnect too. So.
Look, Ian Hitchcock.
Yeah, we'll make sure so she can see the pretty projector, I guess. Whoops. Give me just a moment here. Hey, Linda, we're having some slight technical difficulties, but I promise they won't be that bad. Or maybe they'll be pretty catastrophic here. But it's all good. Hey, can you hear us, Linda?
Yes, I can hear you fine. How about at your end, you can hear me?
Yeah. Great. Take it away, Linda. So this is Linda Gray from the Norwich Energy Committee. She's going to share some tips and tricks.
Thank you very much. I just want to say thank you for inviting me to participate, and also thank you for letting me do it remotely, because the idea of driving home from the Bennington area was kind of like, that would be hard. So I'll give you a little background about the Norwich Energy Committee and the stuff we've been doing, and then show you some examples from our webpage that we have. And I've got some notes because I want to be sure to cover what I was thinking is important. So the Energy Committee actually got started officially in 2002. It's always been set up as a select board appointed committee. There was a period of time where that kind of organization fell a little bit by the wayside, but we've gotten ourselves back on track. We have officially 6 people who've been appointed, and then we also have another recent volunteer who's become active with us. And in the Upper Valley area, there are, I'd say most of the towns in our area have a town energy committee, and that is thanks to one particular local energy activist. His name is Bob Walker, and he collaborated with Johanna Miller at VNRC and helped get a lot of our committees going. And in fact, over the last few years, I'd say the various towns in our region, we've collaborated a fair amount on activities. Particularly that we find that that's very helpful when we're trying to do like public informational events, just simply because you get more people when you're drawing from several towns than when you're just doing one. So our committee, we have focused on both some municipal projects and then also outreach campaigns to residents. And those have been both for solar and for weatherization. I would say we have learned from our experience. I've been on the committees for about 10 years. I was on the school board before that, and frankly, at a certain point when I was considering whether I would run again for the board, I ended up thinking that, frankly, doing work on energy issues was going to have way more impact than anything that I could do on the school board. And that's because I've been concerned and alerted to the problems of global warming for quite a long time. So we have discovered that doing repeat campaigns is very much worth it, and it's typically, I would say, it's because people, homeowners, don't make the decision to invest in efficiency or solar right away. And if you stop talking about it, it doesn't stay on their to-do list. So we have found success by doing it over and over again. Sometimes it seems like a slog, but we have had success. When we do our outreach campaigns, we have found that it works the best when you just go to places that people already are going to on their own routines. So for us in town, that means going to the general store and hanging out there. And fortunately, the family that runs that is very amenable to that kind of thing. And also going to our transfer station. We also do a lot of stuff via our town listserv. So, and that may be that in your area, maybe you have Front Porch Forum that you rely on. So this is something that's very similar to that. We also end up using signs. We have a sandwich board, and we got a few graphic images printed, and then there's space in there that we can put changing information about events coming up. We do banners sometimes, and then again, back at the general store, they have a big, they sell Citgo gas, and there's a big pole with the Citgo sign, and they've allowed us to use that pole for various purposes to show, to basically be like a progress meter. In a few minutes, I'll show you a little bit from our website. You can see an example of that. So, for example, Weatherize, we've done one version or another of a Weatherize campaign since 2014, and the most recent one is one where this year we're doing a partnership with Efficiency Vermont on this button-up Weatherize thing. So we're very happy because we had 52 households sign up for this program, and I want to boast just a little bit. That's the third highest number, I believe, in the state, and we come after a couple towns that have a lot more population. It was Essex and Essex Junction, and then Williston. So we think we did pretty well. And then we've done solarized campaigns, pushing residential solar since 2012. So now I'm going to switch. Hopefully this is going to work. I'm going to switch to showing my screen. Here we go.
Looks like it's working, and we can see ourselves, so you're in good shape with that.
Now let me switch over. Okay, now you can see our webpage, and so we have these various tabs. So I'm going to switch to this solarized one. And I don't know how big everything is, whether you're able to see many of the details. But so this section, so we've done, let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've done it 7 years in a row. And so we end up, now we have, it's about 22% of all our residences have solar, either doing it on-site or like a community solar project located off-site. So we had great years. You can see 2014 and 2016, we were in the 50s. And we are planning now, we're going to do another push this year. It's a very appropriate because this year is the last year with the 30% level of the federal tax credit. So we figure that's worth it. We can highlight that for folks. On the municipal end, oh wait, before I leave that, I wanted to also show you one other thing that we've done. So we've done this map, and I have adult daughters who can help me with some of my technical things. But anyway, so we've done this map to try to show the town, and then I put in addresses and use Google Maps as a way to show where the locations of people who've gone solar. For privacy reasons, we didn't end up having the actual specific addresses, but it's enough to see, for people to get the idea. It's like, hey, browse around. When we do listserv posts, we try to often include some link to something on our webpage, so that, and then this is our website is a freebie through this hosting platform called Weebly, and so they have some stats that they'll give you, and so we can see if people go to the website. So that's handy for us. And then I think it's probably, here, I promised to show you the Citgo poll. So here it's on this page. Oh wait, no, it's not that.
It's behind
Wait a minute. Oh, it was under weatherized. That's why I did. So sorry, that's why I can't tell you. Here we go. So we used it. I don't know if you all have heard of the concept. So this is just the base of the pole, and you possibly can't read this little sign down there, but it says the Great Norwich Weather Strip Countdown Yarn Bomb. So we knitted or crocheted 44 strips that were on the pole, and that was our target. So as we removed a strip every time, every time somebody signed up. So that helped. Sometimes I'm there and I can tell that people recognize what we're doing, and other times I've been adding or taking something away from that poll, and people say, "What is that?" So it's kind of a mixed thing there. Let's see. That's all I needed to show you there. We'll go back to the normal screen mode. I'm trying. There we go.
Linda, we want to make sure we got time for the Dorset folks too, so we can just go for a few more minutes.
Okay, and then, so we've done municipal projects and those kind of standard ones. How do I get rid of this?
So we can see you on the normal screen now, Linda, so we're in good shape there.
That's good. We've got the town, our school district, and the library. They signed up with a power purchase agreement to buy solar electricity. We pushed our we built a new fire and police station, pushed for that to be designed so it'd be net zero energy ready. We're trying to get an updated energy audit for our town hall, and we've had success in getting a couple grants from the state for EV charging stations. So, so that's the kind of stuff we're doing. I will wrap up just by saying that in the last few months, I've been very pleased because there have been folks in town who are not on the Energy Committee who seem to be very interested in trying to push personal action and policy action in reaction to global warming. And so I'm just encouraged by that. And I think the key, if you're starting an Energy Committee, is just to find folks, and hopefully, if what I'm seeing here is indication of what's happening in other towns, hopefully it's not going to be hard, and you just need to find people who care about this issue and have some time to put into it. So that's it. I'll wrap up, and I'll stick around so you can ask questions if you have any.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you, Linda. So Linda, I think what we'll do, if it's all right with you, is we'll let the Dorset folks go first, and then I'll call you back toward the end, and we can have kind of a group question and answer session with everybody. How does that sound?
Okay.
Can you stick around for a little longer? Awesome. I'll call you back when we're ready for questions. Thank you so much, Linda.
Okay,
We'll see you soon.
Any of you guys want to come up? No?
No, of course not. Who's there? Who's on the
Okay,
Dorset Energy?
there are 5 people here tonight from the Dorset Energy Committee, which is kind of the core group. Look at this, we don't have a website. We've only been around since 2007, but at the same time, we've got a core group of people in a town of 2,000 that has kept things going for the past, over a decade. as an energy committee. We've got up front, you know, our current leader. Well, first I'll start with our energy coordinator. It's got started with Jim Hand being designated by the select board as energy coordinator for the town. He pulled in people. Ellen Maloney is now our leader. Nancy Fazy. Well, co-chair, whatever. Nancy Fazy, Bill LaBerge in the back, and myself, I'm Jim Salzgiver. So I'm going to take a little different tack on this, kind of giving, you know, they kind of give an idea of what we define as, you know, what are the different things that we're trying to accomplish? What are our strategies? And it started off back, you know, it's fun. We've got every year in the town report, we have a page and we kind of talk about what we see as our major accomplishments for the year. You go back to the 2007 one, and it set out 5 strategies when the thing got started. One is to assess energy and cost savings opportunities, and that was really starting off with municipalities, moving on to residents, buildings, and all. But you know, looking at energy and cost saving opportunities, that was largely the weatherization, you know, electricity savings, etc. Address health, environment, and cost benefits of energy efficiency and pollution reduction. So that was another strategy, you know, goal. Create more energy awareness in schools and community. So these are some of the things that you can kind of choose from as things you may want to accomplish. Reduction in recycling of solid waste, which you know, solid waste was a major early thing we did. And encouraging alternative technologies for energy production. So this was back in 2007. Since then, we've added a few things. We learned as we went along, and we found that, you know, one of the key things our energy committee has done, it's gotten very involved in the planning process in town. We're all required to have town plans. Our town plan back in the old days said nothing about energy, nothing, you know, even giving a hint of moving in that direction. Now, with the help of certainly people like, you know, Jim Sullivan and the BCRC, our town plan has a major energy section. It has an energy theme throughout. That's important to get the community engaged. In addition, we're one of those towns that have an Act 174 enhanced energy plan in place now. We've also done work with, you know, we talked before about residential building energy standards. Paul was talking about the fact that you know, they put a great code in place and then there's no compliance whatsoever, and sort of typical Vermont fashion. We actually in town did come up with a methodology to provide for some compliance. We've gotten involved in transportation, where one of Ellen's major projects is a park and ride. Where there was really nothing available, and so creating a park and ride to allow people to commute together, move together. Electric vehicles, bike and pedestrian, we've, you know, done a variety of things. Financing for energy projects, that's also been one of our goals. We did a PACE program, but then we found you know, NeighborWorks is fabulous. VSECU, you know, does great work, but you know, we're there as a resource to help people, you know, understand the financing opportunities for energy projects. And another big thing we've done over time is just develop relationships with people like NeighborWorks, people like Efficiency Vermont and BCRC. So, you know, those are, you know, we're up to kind of like 10 strategies from 5 strategies. And what we've accomplished with that, you know, on the energy efficiency front, municipal buildings from the town hall, the school, fire departments, etc. All those, we've done energy audits. We've done incredible improvements. We've you know, at the school building, for instance, we reduced the amount of fuel oil being used to heat the building by about 25%. We reduced the electric bills by about 40%. And then we put solar panels on the building to produce essentially all the electricity that's used at the school. Town hall, similar savings. So you can actually do some very significant things. The electric lighting, the LED program, we're a small town. We've eliminated some lights,
but we have been spending about $12,000 a year on running our streetlights, and we dropped that to about $8,000. So you can make a difference. You know, we've had major campaigns to get people to do energy audits and start doing energy work. We've had some good success in that. A lot of, you know, alternative energy with heat pumps, solar water heaters, etc. We've gotten into the business community has been a big goal as well as the residential, and you know, and we've actually found that you can have a very significant impact. We had, you know, especially in lighting with a lot of our businesses, we've had a real big impact. So those are some of the things that we've accomplished. But one of the things I think all of us have found out is, you know, as I said, we started over 10 years ago. We had goals. We've expanded that number of goals. None of those goals has gone away. You know, frankly, you know, this is if you want to make a difference as an energy committee, you know, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And, you know, having the ability to continue to go after it, and, you know, you really can make a difference, and you can continue to make a difference. You know, those marginal savings might be a little bit tougher down the road, but you come up with new projects. And what we found, you know, I think all of us would agree, that one of the keys to making it work is actually having a great group that can work together, enjoys working together, make it fun. Ellen on the way down was talking about how we do little field trips. You know, the little field trips to the Resource Recycling Center, to Jason Day and his wind power, you know, wind power turbine operation up in Dorset. So you know, getting people together who like to work together, having people who are passionate not just about, you know, you talked about, you know, being passionate about a specific project. That's great, but you also have to have some people who are passionate about, you know, the entire, you know, idea of improving, you know, energy efficiency, reducing the amount of energy we use, and, you know, having like Jim Hand as our fearless leader there. He's about as passionate as anybody I know on this stuff. And Jim Sullivan, you know, we're in Bennington County. We're blessed when it comes to energy committees because, you know, Jim, his knowledge base is amazing, plus, you know, his willingness to work on this stuff and support towns.
And I have staff who are much smarter than me. They're available to work with
a lot
towns.
of patience.
Well, that's why they put me up here, because they're all smarter than I am.
So, you know, we have the facilities, but, you know, it's very rewarding to get involved. You can make a big difference. You know, if you stick with it, then, you know, it's amazing what you can accomplish. And maybe we'll get a website this year or something. So much.
A question for you. Did you have, when you first put things together, did you find that your town government structure was reluctant to listen to you, or were you already a part of it in some way so that it was more seamless?
Do you want to take it? Or?
Well, I think it's my opinion anyways. I would say initially most of the boards were not very receptive, especially when it came to reworking the energy plan for the town. And we happened to come in, I think, on a 5-year cycle that they were roughly. And our first draft didn't get very far.
Yeah.
We were sent back to rework it. But, and at that time, we had a town manager who was not with us now, but who was very receptive. And he was helpful, quite frankly, in getting our town office building reworked, lighting and thermal. Since then, our current town manager,
Rob Giotti.
Rob Giotti, has been very receptive and very helpful in almost anything we come up with.
I think, you know, there's kind of an interesting point I want to add on to here, though, is, you know, we had the select board put Jim in as the coordinator. They gave him the option of figuring out how he wanted to structure it, and he structured a committee. It's worked out very well for us because, you know, I think, while not supportive in all ways, they kind of let us do our thing, report to them periodically, and it worked out very well because we've got a lot of freedom to operate. Next to us is a town that, in Manchester, where the select board also created an energy committee, but they decided they wanted to have more control of it. And that actually limited the amount of work and, the amount of impact they could have. So, it's a trade-off between, if you want the support, and frankly, the select board, whenever we've wanted to do things and needed their support, they've ended up being very supportive. But I think that's partially because we've proved ourselves every time.
Saved them money.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's, I love the structure where they let us go do what we want to do. They're there to support us when we want, but they aren't trying to control us all the time. If we go in to give them an update, they're sort of like, yeah, okay, fine. And it works out
So we
fine.
have no budget.
Hey, Linda, this is Ian here. Are you with us?
Yes.
Great, thank you so much for bearing with us. So we've also got Linda available for questions as well, folks. Thank you, Linda.
I think we're gonna.
No problem.
Yeah, let's take one or two more questions, and then I want to get everybody a chance to get out and enjoy the cool evening, so.
With your nice relaxed relationship with your select board, how does the question of money get solved?
The truth of it, as I said before, we kind of sold ourselves on the basis we didn't have a budget. That made it really easy for them to love us doing things. We've actually had a few opportunities to generate some cash in the past, but for the most part we've and whenever there's something, if there's something specific, it's like Nancy, great idea. We really wanted to support biking in our communities and all. So we really needed some new bike racks in a couple of different places. So it was a matter of essentially coming up with the idea, the design, the whole thing. Here's the turnkey, just fund it, and they write the check. So if we have something very specific like that, but on most of the stuff we do doesn't really require funding.
I would add to that, however, when we did fire departments, and we had 2 fire department buildings, one in Dorset, one in East Dorset, and town office, Ellen was able to put together a significant cost coverage by a grant, which helped. And then we had a little local energy installation company that did the work in both cases on a fairly frugal basis.
Yeah.
But what that demonstrated to the town was talking about positive cash flow, because their costs were just about nothing on those 3 buildings. Then we moved into the school, which Jim was on the school board and helped us, plus there's what's called a SEMP program, as I remember. Yep. That is still, I think, active.
Yep.
That will come around and to basically do an audit on your school buildings, show you what the incentives are, show you what the possibilities are. So in most cases, there wasn't a whole lot of money that was needed from the town or the school board.
And on something
It
like...
still exists, I think, in many cases.
And something like the school, actually, it was what these guys were talking about before. The first go-around was a walkthrough that identified enough, it made it real clear. There's a lot of work, a lot of low-hanging fruit. And so, you identify that. Then having the full sort of audit done was not a big deal because we knew we were going to be able to achieve the savings. And then, you do a project like that, and we're talking the savings are tens of thousands of dollars a year, in savings. And so that creates some credibility.
All right, well, I want to thank you again, and thank to everybody for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. This is incredibly encouraging to see this amount of interest and enthusiasm. Please feel free to chat with each other on the way out. There's 7 or 8 sandwiches left. Please grab one of those for your ride home. And there's really good information up here at the table. Introduce yourselves to the resource folks we have here, especially Madison, who is here all about helping people facilitate formation of energy committees, and we'll get contact information to everybody. So thanks again to everyone. We really appreciate it.